Welcome everyone to our virtual conference, Opportunities in Immune Health Across All Markets. As you know, this global health crisis has put a great emphasis on immune health as people look to protect themselves against COVID. We have seen that the novel coronavirus had led to significant mortality among individuals with vulnerable or compromised immune systems, but also people with no obvious underlying health conditions. Vitamins and minerals, along with ingredients like prebiotics or probiotics, are on the radar of consumers of all age groups more than ever. So shelf-stable probiotics have become more popular, and we will see more innovative products with them to support immune health. Hydration continues to be an important factor for immune health. This is an excellent news for food companies that view health as an investment and are innovating or expanding in the better for you sector over the next few years. I would like everyone to welcome and hear Jane Dummer to understand the need and opportunities in immune health across all market segments. Jane is a respected thought leader in the food industry with credentials as a registered dietitian and a nutrition science degree from one of the world's leading food universities. Jane consults with medium to large food and beverage companies across North America and is a frequent guest and commentator in the media circuit with over 100 interviews. Jane speaks in front of strategic audiences, including key clients, industry, health professionals, and consumers. She's also the author of The Needs for Seeds, How to Make Seeds an Everyday Food in Your Healthy Diet. She's also a writer for Baker's Journal and a member of the College of Dietitians of Ontario. She has also served on scientific advisory boards for Danone Canada and the Canadian Foundation of Dietetic Research. Without further ado, Jane, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Beatrice. And that was, I appreciate that great introduction. And as well, I am the health expert here at the virtual Food Week for SIAL. And so online today too, I have one of my team members, Cheryl. Cheryl's going to be online helping me out with the question and answer period. So I encourage you to put questions into the opportunity, into the box, the tab as we go along. I will be offering 2 question and answer periods, and I would prefer if you didn't put them in the chat, just so it's easier for us to collate and get those questions. And again, Cheryl, thanks for being here. So without further ado, let's get started. So the presentation today, we will look at health and wellness. We'll look at immune health, and we'll do a little bit of comparison pre and post quarantine of COVID. We're not post COVID yet, and I wish we were, but we're not. But anyway, so I'll talk about that, and then I'll talk about the individual markets. So from Gen Z to baby boomers, what the opportunities there, what their interests are. Both in health and wellness, but also putting a larger emphasis on immune health. And then that'll be the second question period. And then after the second question period, I will do the final insights. So prior to the global pandemic, health and wellness was definitely a trend across all markets. I was getting calls to speak about health and wellness, what better for you products look like, writing about it, blogging about it, speaking about it. And then, March of 2020 hit. And prior to that, we were understanding that there was this new virus within our environment, but we weren't sure what was exactly going to happen. And then once that the World Health Organization did identify it as a pandemic, people took an even greater interest in their health. So research from IFIC, from FMI, from the Hartman Group, they all came up with surveys indicating that at least 30 to 36% of people, once the pandemic hit, had a greater interest in their health. Immune health is top of mind because we're dealing with a virus, and we know when we get a common cold or we get the flu, what do? We make chicken soup. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. We drink lots of fluids. So because we don't have a proven treatment protocol for COVID right now, people are very, very concerned about their own immune health, and they're taking measures to support their immune health. Again, research from the different bodies I just spoke about, and just even Google research or Google searches. So the spike in searches for immunity, stress relief, sleep have increased since the global pandemic was announced. So sleep has been an ongoing issue with immune health, what I would say for at least a decade, with people addicted to their devices and just that whole 24/7 news. But more than ever, sleep is a really important piece of immune health. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. And of course, stress relief. So we know this pandemic has an end date, but we just don't know what end date. And as humans, that's not comforting for us. So people are under a lot of stress right now. And people are looking for ways to do self-care, and that involves how they eat and how they drink. So innovation in both food and beverages for health and wellness are on trend more than ever. Plus, accurate health and nutrition guidance and solutions has never been so significant. So the FTC out of the US is slapping and arresting companies who are identifying COVID cures without any proven statement and substantiated research. And we know there isn't a cure right now. So if there is a product out there that's saying that it will prevent or cure, we know that's not tested or proven. So people are looking for accurate information from people who understand what is going on and that can give them those solutions to help with their health goals. So when we're specifically looking at immune health, consumers are putting an emphasis on their self-care, their well-being, and resilience. So again, we know there are different ways to build your immune system and to support your immune system. We're doing preventative things with COVID, like hand washing, social distancing, wearing masks. We're not talking as much about nutrition as I believe we should be, because again, the old saying, apple a day keeps the doctor away. As soon as you get a cold, make chicken soup. So we have these tactics in place, but we're not really talking as much about it as we should be. So research trends continue to show consumers want to eat healthier compared to pre-pandemic. So there's great opportunity here. There's great opportunity to create products that help customers and consumers eat healthy. And there's great opportunity to provide them with solutions and accurate guidance for their health goals. Consumers, again, want the solutions to enhance their immune systems, reduce stress, and support well-being. And more than ever, consumers across all cohorts, so from Zeds to Boomers, they are interested in foods with functional benefits. So just a reminder, if you have any questions, if you could put them in the Q&A, because we'll be coming up to a Q&A piece fairly soon, or segment fairly soon. So if you could type any of your questions in that Q&A box, that would be terrific. So when we're looking at immune health, and I just identified some substances or chemicals, nutrients, vitamins in these boxes, or they're not boxes, but in these, I'm going to call the diamonds. Vitamin D, prebiotics, probiotics. Hydration is critical. So we know humans and animals, most animals can't live without hydration for more than 7 days. So hydration is a critical piece that I'll talk about it a little bit later. And then fiber and vitamins and minerals. I highlighted vitamin D specifically because there is research going on about adequate vitamin D intake and how it supports a strong immune system, and it defends the body from foreign invading organisms. But there is ongoing emerging research within obviously very sick COVID patients in the hospital in those controlled conditions, identifying one research out of Rome. And we know, Italy was making the news ahead of us in North America about the virus back in February, that at least 30 to 33% of the people they did the research on had low blood serums of vitamin D. So they were low in vitamin D. So the research is looking at vitamin D as part of the treatment to reduce the severity and symptoms if contracted. And I put that statement in about potential to reduce the risk of contracting. So more research needs to be done. It's a little tricky because, once people get the virus, then they can do these studies on the people who have the virus with vitamin D. But we would assume, and assumptions, in science can get us into big trouble. However, we would assume that if the people that they did the study on were only 30% had the adequate amount of vitamin D in their system, then vitamin D appropriate amounts of vitamin D could help decrease or reduce your risk of contracting COVID. So then moving on to probiotics. So I'm pulling out vitamin D and I'm pulling out probiotics because those are the two immune substances that are really getting the attention right now. And probiotics, as Beatrice mentioned, I was on a probiotic advisory board for Danone back in 2004 to 2006 when they brought Activia into the country. And at the time, there were no probiotic foods. So as a company, they did a lot of good research and scientific studies to back up the dossier for Health Canada. And I was part of that scientific board. So that was, a very interesting time, but I've had an interest in probiotics and digestive health for, over 20 years. And so when we look at specific probiotic strains and how they support a healthy immune system, and what they're looking at is how can it have an impact on your respiratory or pulmonary system. And so when we're looking at, again, this is very emerging research, and the strains still have to be fleshed out, but they are looking at lactobacilli and bifido. And again, the potential, same as vitamin D, once the people are in the hospital, they can do the clinical trials, and what they are finding is in conjunction with other treatment, the probiotics are reducing the respiratory severity and other symptoms, reducing inflammation. So, if the respiratory tract is inflamed, but so it's reducing it there, but also reducing inflammation in other parts of the body. And again, making this assumption that if, again, these people maybe have an unbalanced microbiome prior to COVID, and so people with, higher strains of these probiotics within their gut potentially have the opportunity to reduce the risk of contracting. And again, this is all very emerging research, but I encourage you to follow it. Gregor Reid out of University of Western Ontario and the Lawson Centre in London is pushing for research. There was research out of Boston as well as New York. And again, this is all very small studies and emerging research, but it's very interesting research. And then hydration. So we're looking at adequate hydration is essential for life, and being hydrated supports the immune system. As I mentioned earlier, what your grandmother told you, as soon as you get a cold or the flu, start drinking fluids. You need to drink the fluids prior to the cold or the flu, but certainly that does help with the severity. And so it defends the body from foreign and invading substances. So hydration and COVID. So again, it's like any other virus or the flu. It's critical for prevention and recovery. And of course, staying hydrated supports all functions within the body, including providing moisture to the respiratory system. So we know COVID's not only attacking the respiratory system, but it does provide, staying hydrated does provide moisture, and you need to think about the different systems and how they use hydration, and so again, really important piece if companies are looking at creating functional beverages. So we're now in the time for the Q&A, and just wondering if we have any questions at this point, Cheryl.
There hasn't been any yet on the
Any yet? Okay. So on your screen, you can just roll into the Q&A and just write in your question if anybody has any questions right now. Beatrice, do you have any questions? I know you said you might.
So far, I'm interested for the functional food. Do you have some example of a functional food that you could recommend to people who actually maybe went back to work, went back to the office, that might be a little bit stressed as COVID, we're getting a second wave? Do you have any functional food recommendations?
So looking at, a variety of foods, including vitamins and minerals. And when I think about probiotics, we've come so far with shelf-stable probiotics. And so there are foods out there with probiotics that are not just dairy. So when probiotics first started being added to foods, it was mainly dairy products. And so, is that shelf-stable probiotic the strain that's actually going to fight specifically COVID? We don't know. However, having a healthy gut and having a healthy digestive tract and having a healthy microbiome is going to be very supportive in your immune system to fight off not only COVID, but other viruses and other bacterial infections as well. So yeah, I do recommend, looking at vitamins, minerals, products with probiotics, lots of hydration. So, if you're looking at an enhanced drink, so that's functional. So, whether it has added vitamins and minerals or an added functional ingredient, I'd recommend that as well.
Super,
Yes.
thank you.
There is one question that just came in.
Okay.
Just stating that you haven't yet mentioned the need for protein.
Oh, okay. And that is a good question. And of course, when we're looking at, a healthy diet, protein is part of it. Having adequate amount of protein does help with your immune health for sure. I didn't specifically go into protein. I specifically went into, vitamin D as well as probiotics. But definitely, yeah. So certainly in those diamonds, protein could have been part of that. And when we're looking at different types of protein, having complete protein is helpful. So with all the essential amino acids. But yeah, having an overall healthy diet with a good, a good amount of the macronutrients, and certainly is important. All right. Any other questions? If not, we can move on. Okay,
We're good.
All right. Thanks, Cheryl. Yes.
Well,
Another
one
one?
did in. It's in French.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I can take that. So what impact vegetalization of food on the immune system? Okay, so let's try this again. De la végétalisation de l'alimentation. Quel impact la végétalisation de l'alimentation sur le système immunitaire? So sorry, I don't, the term végétalisation,
Yes, you don't know that term?
yes, I don't know if you know it, Jane, but basically that's the question. What impact of the végétalisation of food on the immune system?
Actually, it's
Yeah.
to vegetalization is to eat more vegetables.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we know vegetables have vitamins, minerals, lots of fiber. So digestive health is super important for to support our health, immune health. And so the fiber from vegetables, keeps our gut transit time in good shape. And also to the vitamins and minerals. So like when we're looking at, and mushrooms are not really, they're a fungus. They're not really a vitamin, or sorry, a vegetable, but they have vitamin D. And again, not a ton of it, but certainly having a variety of fruits and vegetables in a variety of colors is, again, necessary for overall health as well as a healthy immune system. So thank you for that translation, and we'll move on to the next section. And again, I encourage you to write any of your questions or type, any of your questions into the Q&A box. So now we're going to go to market sector interests and how this will help companies identify opportunities to create products. So when we're looking at Gen Zs, and they're 18 to 24, and they're health conscious, they're interested in sustainability and ethically sourced products. Most of their information that they get is socially media generated. They're on their phones 24/7, and so that's where they're getting their information. With millennials, they're interested in nutrition benefits. They're interested in food waste and not wasting food, and they're also interested in new experiences. So out of the cohorts, they're not really loyal to any one product, and they're always kind of looking for the next new product. And then Gen X's, so that's ages 40 to 55. They're health conscious. They want things familiar, yet they're somewhat adventurous. They are interested in organics. Millennials are also interested in organics. And then the baby boomers, who are 55 or 56 to 74, they're interested in healthy aging, and they're more loyal. They're more loyal to a brand or to a product. They prefer things that are homemade. So they're not looking for kind of the next thing to Instagram. They're looking for quality and things that are authentic and homemade. And so the highlights, again, this is just to help companies look at, okay, what is the Gen Zs, what are, the third biggest buying power in Canada. So that just shows, where they fit. I've got out of the four, they're third. And I'm going to start from the bottom. Many still living with their parents can influence their parents' purchases. So prior to COVID, we saw more tribal interests in food. So things like paleo, keto, and not that there's still not interest in that, but I would say overall across all cohorts, immune and health, just well-being and health is more top of mind than the individual specific diet tribes. So they are health conscious, and they're open to functional foods and beverages. This group especially is open to beverages. They're ethical shoppers, so they want to customize their choices, but they also want transparency. And they're a little bit more loyal, I would say, than their previous generation with millennials. So, they're if they find a company that is what they consider ethical, they will become a little bit more loyal. obviously they do online shopping, and I think everyone is doing more online shopping than we did prior to COVID. But certainly this group is on their phone or on their devices 24/7 if their parents are allowing it. And at 18, their parents are probably don't have that level of guidance. So and then social media that's very similar to millennials. It's very important to them, and that's how they make some of their decisions. So again, this group is very interested in functional beverages. So if you're a beverage company, you want to look at Gen Z, and you want to see, what's the price point for them? What ingredients are they interested in? Yes, you're interested in overall health, but is there a specific, flavor, ingredient, those types of, information to help you and guide you creating products for them. And again, they get their information from social media and they shop online. So moving on to millennials, so they're 25 to 39. And so again, very social media attack place an importance on health and nutrition, but they also want uniqueness and they also want experience, and they can be impulsive. They're very interested in plant-based. So that question about protein, if you're a protein company, alternative or regular protein, animal-based protein, then that's a target market. You want to make sure you're getting the correct information out, you're providing them solutions. And interesting with this group, male to female shoppers, it's pretty much even, whereas in both X's and boomers, it's more female. And so this is the second largest buying power in Canada. So certainly taking a look at what their interests are when you are creating products targeted at this market. And they do want to understand the immune potential of plant-based eating. So this group has really grasped onto alternative meat, alternative dairy. And now, especially with COVID, they are interested in understanding that. And at the same time, they're interested in understanding that. So traditional dairy and meat companies may want to address that as well. As I mentioned earlier, they're interested in organics. They get their information from social media. They are interested in functional foods and beverages, but again, not as loyal as other cohorts. So they're always looking for that new experience. And now we move on to the Gen X, 40 to 55-year-olds. And so they're the smallest buying power in Canada. They seem to be the most compliant with the COVID rules, which is interesting with this generation. And maybe it's because they're the smallest population within our country. But wellness and well-being, so overall wellness and well-being. So it's not just, is it gluten-free? Does it have a probiotic in it? Does it have a prebiotic in it? They're more interested in the overall wellness. Sustainability and local is important to them. They do want familiar flavors, but they are adventurous as well. And again, not as adventurous as millennials. Millennials are looking for that new experience, and they just want to keep trying new things. Whereas Gen X's are, yes, we want familiar, but we also do want new. Price point, this is their prime earning years. And I know COVID has hit economically around the world. So, but it is, again, this is the age group that it is the prime earning years for them. So, keeping that in mind. They're big on quality and taste, and they do shop at a variety of retailers. So they may not, just shop at only a higher end retailer. They may shop at the higher end, the mid, and the discount. And, of course, when we were locked down, that wasn't as easy for them to do. But they put a little bit more effort into their retailers, and it's not such a status symbol to shop at a certain retailer for them. And then immune health with this group. So again, they're interested in overall balanced health. So they're not, again, chasing every shiny new thing coming along. They're getting closer to healthy aging. So, they're looking at how am I balanced now, but how can I cook and buy nutritiously for myself and for my family as I age. So they're open to targeted nutrition and nutrient dense foods. They like convenience, but they also like nutrient dense. And so it's important to them that, some of their nourishment is homemade, and it's not, again, all store bought or from a restaurant. And they are interested in organics. So this group is, kind of not an easy group, but, they can kind of balance out if you're looking at an overall nutritious product with a slight support for the immune system. And then we go on to boomers. And so this is the largest buying power within Canada right now. They want familiar flavors. They're not as adventurous, but they're more loyal to brands. So, as a brand, if you've got this group, they're the largest buying power in Canada. Don't mess it up with your new innovations. Make sure you do your research to make sure that you're addressing their interest and addressing their demands and needs. They want quality ingredients, and they're not really big into the free from. So, they do want quality ingredients, but free from is not necessarily a big concern for them. So when they're looking at what specific health states, so healthy aging, mindful mood foods. So across all cohorts, we're looking at mental health right now, since COVID, since the pandemic, since we've got restrictions, since we don't have an end date with COVID. But the boomers have been looking, for mood, food, and mindfulness and cognition pre-COVID, where all cohorts right now are looking at that within COVID. And then, of course, hydration. So hydration, I said, helps with all systems within the body, but certainly as you're aging, very important for your skin and for overall health. So just again, a reminder to put any of your questions in the Q&A, and so Cheryl can shout them out to me in our next Q&A segment. But so with the baby boomers and the immune health, they want to augment their health. Obviously, they want more energy to spend time when they can spend time with their families. They want less processed options. So when we came out with a lot of plant-based alternatives that were highly processed, they weren't really the target market. It was definitely millennials and maybe young Zeds, or sorry, young X's and older Zeds. So, but this group wants authentic quality and then specific states. So if they're looking at antioxidants, vitamins, probiotics, fiber, out of the macronutrients, the type of fat, high quality protein can all fit into what the boomers are looking for. And so we're at our next question segment. And so immune health and the target market. So taking a look at what we just talked about, does anyone have any questions about that subject?
I've got 2 questions here.
Okay.
So the first one is, why is 40 to 55 the smallest population?
Why is it? That's just the research I found. So the boomers are the biggest, the millennials are the second, Gen X's are fourth, and Zeds are third.
Another question relative, trying to understand how there's less people in Gen X, but a large pool in millennials and baby boomers. Trying to understand how there's less people in Gen X.
Okay, so what is the question?
It's just, I guess somebody's just stating that they're trying to understand. So maybe it's the same. There's less people in Gen X, but a large pool in millennials and baby boomers. So just trying to understand maybe why that is. It's not really a question.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure how to answer.
I've got another one for you.
Okay, good. Let's go on to the next one.
Do you know of any plant-based meal replacements available in Canada?
Specifically, I think plant-based meal replacement. So like when a meal replacement, like a boost or an onshore, whoever answered the question, are you looking at like a supplement meal replacement? Just for clarity, they able to click in
Yes,
and
either of
clarify
those.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So from my understanding right now, commercially, I'm not familiar with them. A lot of them are still made with whey. Um, so, but it is a good question. Yeah.
Is there any other options other than the Ensures or a drink? Is there other meal replacement options, I guess, other than a drink?
Again, on the medical side, so meal replacement actually has a standard of identity, or it's a regulated term in Canada. So I'm not sure if that question is coming from somebody within Canada, but if they're in the meal replacement, if they're looking to expand into the meal replacement, make sure you have the regulatory information correct. Because there are regulations around what you can term as a meal replacement. But yeah, there's meal replacement bars, there's meal replacement drinks. There's different options that way. Yeah, again, medically, like for in a hospital, meal replacements would be the ones I mentioned, but I'm sure in retail there are some meal replacements that, yeah, like I'm thinking the sports nutrition Vega and those, obviously Vega is plant-based. So
And
yeah.
somebody has also asked if your slides will be available after this.
So what SIAL is doing is they're recording this presentation, and then it will be available on their YouTube channel probably within the day, if not sooner. It depends on how Beatrice, what do you think? How soon would they?
Exactly. So the presentation will be available on our YouTube channel, also on the virtual trade show menu in the replay webinars, and it should take a couple of hours, but we should have it by the end of today.
Okay, great. So this is going to be the last Q&A segment. The rest of the presentation, I'm going to give you my final insights, and then Beatrice is going to wrap up. So, I'll just give you maybe another minute in case anybody has any questions. And then after this segment of questions, I will give you my contact information at the end. Plus, I'm here at the trade show tomorrow as well as Thursday. I'm not available on Friday, but you can either chat with me or you can email me directly any questions you have, or if you are looking for information about my business, then feel free to email me directly. So if has there any more questions that have come in, Cheryl, or we're good?
Yeah, we're good right now.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the final insights for this presentation, and then we'll wrap up with Beatrice. So the final insights, looking at health and wellness in general, so insights and opportunities. So health and wellness was trending prior to the pandemic. Now there is a greater emphasis on people concerned about COVID-19. Healthy eating and balanced nutrition is recognized as a habit to maintain overall health, especially now with concerns about COVID. So, really important to have and again, there's no one nutrition dietary plan that meets everybody's individual needs, but it's really important to have one in place. And we knew this prior to COVID. I really think nutrition should be one of the measures we're talking about. We're talking about hand washing, we're talking about mask wearing, we're talking about social distancing. I really believe, healthy eating and including what we've talked about, vitamins and minerals, vitamin D, probiotics, prebiotics, maintaining a healthy gut. including hydration, and of course, again, the macronutrients, having high quality protein in your diet, as well as healthy fats and quality carbohydrates. So more to talk about that, and more emphasis should be put on that. Consumers want, obviously, products that taste good, along with accurate information and solutions. And as I mentioned, especially with companies who are, going rogue and identifying COVID prevention, COVID cure, it's really inappropriate to be doing that. And it's also illegal in most countries. So consumers want the products, but they also want accurate information and solutions and price point too. So when you're doing your research on who your target market is, especially now with the economy influenced by this health crisis, identify what the price point is that the consumers are willing to pay. And if 30 to 36% of consumers are willing to put more interest in their overall health, then maybe there'll be a shift in how much they pay for specific foods that have functional health benefits. And again, they're searching, literally consumers are searching online for ways to support their immune health more than ever. So, I encourage you to be that company who's, giving out the accurate information, who's creating products that not only taste good, but fit into a budget within your target markets that you're identifying. All markets, so right from X's or Z's to boomers, are interested in targeted health and functional foods and beverages. So just keeping that in mind, and looking at how these foods help them meet their own individual health goals. And again, I highlighted the two substances, so vitamin D and probiotics, that I felt was important in the emerging research as we navigate this global health crisis. And we've been obviously looking at vitamin D for quite a few years, especially living in a climate where we need sunshine. And interesting, in one of the studies with the vitamin D, the lack of vitamin D, serum vitamin D in the individuals who had contracted COVID, is the outbreak did happen in winter. So it'd be interesting to see, people are talking about this next wave going to be even worse. But with social distancing and things, people being outside more, I'm interested to see, and it'll be interesting to see research done on the second wave of people hospitalized with their vitamin D levels, and then probiotics as well. So we've known about probiotics and immune health for at least 2 decades, if not 3. And then looking at the specific strains that can help people who are in crisis with COVID, and again, assuming that people who have a healthy gut may have a decreased risk for contracting COVID. And so starting with the Gen Zs, they're health conscious, they want ethical products, they're open especially to functional beverages. They can influence their parents' purchases, so that's interesting. Many of them are still living at home. And then social media influences their purchases. And then going to millennials, they are interested in health and nutrition, and especially if they're young moms, definitely want health and nutrition options for their family. But they also want a new experience. Out of all the cohorts, they're the biggest putting attention on plant-based products. So keep that in mind, depending on where you are within your product line and your target markets. They have an interest in organics as well as Gen X's, and then social media influences their purchases. So, they may not look to experts, but they may look more to social media, good or bad. That's somewhat how they roll. So keeping that in mind as you launch your products, what type of social media communications you have in place. And then Gen X insights, again, it's more overall wellness and well-being. It's health for now plus healthy aging. So what can I do now, but what can I do now for tomorrow, basically? And then quality over quantity. So they're not as eager for the next shiny ball or the next flavor or that. But they do want quality ingredients and quality products. And they are very interested in organics. And then the boomer insights, so healthy aging and health state specific. So, at this point, there may be arthritis, there may be osteoporosis. Definitely looking at specific products that contain those substances that help with that. So when we're looking at immune health, we're looking at probiotics, we're looking at fiber, we're looking at hydration, vitamins and minerals. And again, making sure macronutrients are there. And then they want more high value, less processed products. So they are not necessarily jumping on alternative meat products, but people in their family may, so they might be slightly influenced by that. But in general, they're looking for less processed and more authentic. And then the final insights across all markets. So how we nourish our bodies has never been so vital during a global health crisis. And that's where I really think more emphasis should be talking about nutrition and how nutrition can help stabilize our bodies to navigate this health crisis. And then consumers across all markets are interested in functional foods and beverages that support a healthy immune system. As I said, when COVID hit, 30 to 36% of people did indicate they wanted to eat and drink healthier. And depending on your location and government regulations, it's necessary to be compliant with proper labeling statements and claims that are supported and substantiated by science. So, even on LinkedIn, I remember when the pandemic first hit, like a lot of marketers were using inappropriate claims, inappropriate statements. And even within, that type of social media, I highly recommend using the correct statements, because consumers want to have the accurate information and they want to deal with companies who are providing that information. And as I mentioned, and I've been mentioning on and on about nutrition is only one, or is definitely a factor in immune health. But restful sleep is another, reducing stress and fitness, all contribute to a healthy immune system. And so if you have a product that can kind of hit all those marks, that would be great. So like if you could have a product that would, have a calming effect, reduce stress, and then slightly give us, some energy and kind of, what is that calm energy look like? So, I kind of put that out to the innovators out there. I'd like to see products on the market that would be able to help with those different states. But encouraging sleep, reducing stress, and having a fitness strategy is all part of a healthy immune system. So there's no one silver bullet. It's all encompassing right now, and it has been. But it's certainly not stressing a silver bullet is really important for the population right now. Along with opportunities for innovation of foods and beverages targeted at immune health, companies need to support their customers with accurate guidance and solution for their enhanced goals. So as I mentioned earlier, depending on what part of the world you're in and what the regulatory system is, again, you do need to follow that information, but it's also really important not to make, overarching statements about products that are not substantiated by science. And just a plug on my book. So it's available on Amazon, and seeds contain healthy fats and fiber, and certainly plant-based protein, which a question came up about that. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to check that out. And then finally, I want to thank you for your attention, and thank you for attending this SIAL webinar. This is my contact information. So info@janedummer.com, and janedummer.com is my website. I encourage you to connect with me if you have any further questions, or if I can provide any more information to you based on this presentation. And then I'll pass it over to Beatrix to tell you where you can get the presentation and to sign off after that.
Thank you so much, Jane, for your presentation. Thank you for all the insights that you've shared with us today. So I think we can all remember to stay hydrated, take our vitamin D and more probiotics, especially in this unprecedented time. Thank you for sharing about the different target markets. And yes, this presentation will be on the YouTube channel of the SIAL TV. You'll also get it in the replay conferences of the virtual trade show happening until this Friday. So stay tuned. Other great conferences are also happening in the next days. And don't forget to sign up for them too. And yes, the presentation of today will be available within a few hours. So thank you very much, Jane, again for your presentation. Thank you, Cheryl, too, for assisting with the questions. Thank you, Aurélie, also. And yes, see you guys for another great conference. I think you have one tomorrow, Jane, right?
Yes, tomorrow at 11 on sustainability.
Super. Thank you, everyone, and have a great visit on the virtual trade show as well. Thanks for supporting us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.